Hi friends, welcome to Everstudy Classes. So in this video we are going to continue our discussion on the past 5 MCQ series which we have started for UGC Net Commerce Examination. So as a part of this series we are regularly discussing 5 important MCQs which have been asked in the past year papers and which have a very high probability of being repeated in the future also. So that's why we are covering all these questions in a very holistic and comprehensive manner. The topic for today is going to be business environment. Now before proceeding to our discussion, let me quickly tell you about the courses which the Everstudy Classes is running for UGC Net Commerce. Now we are running both free as well as paid courses for UGC Net Commerce, and in the free courses we have a free mock test which is a computer based test on the latest pattern and on the latest mode which is going to be employed in the UGC Net NTA examination. So you can appear for this computer based test and get a feel of what it is going to be like when you appear in the final examination. Also, we are having a past year analysis discussion section in which we are regularly discussing past year questions, and this particular video is also part of that series, and all the PDFs of this series are available in this course of ours. And also we are running unit wise glossary, and in this particular series we have a unit wise glossary in which we have picked up important terms from each of the units, and we have written them in a very simple manner with proper examples and proper diagrammatic presentations so that you can grasp these terms in a very comprehensive and a very easy manner. Now apart from our free courses, we are also running these paid courses on test series for UGC Net Commerce. Now we believe that a practice makes the man perfect. So we believe that you should practice as many questions as possible, and these questions should be based on the UGC pattern and they should be based on the same mode in which you are going to appear in the final examination. So for this particular purpose we have provided you a computer based test series, and we have two set of test series. One is a full length mocks test series in which we are having 6 full length mocks for rupees 499. So these test series will have 600 questions and they are going to be based on the latest UGC Net pattern, and you are also going to get detailed solutions with explanations, and in case of any query you will always have the faculty support with you. And in the other course we are having a complete test series in which we are offering 12 unit wise tests of 100 questions each and a 6 full length mock test also containing 100 questions each. So you will have a total of 1800 questions in this test series, and they will also be on the same lines. It will be a computer based test. You will get the detailed solutions and faculty support, and this one is priced at rupees 999. So friends, let's start with the first question. The central bank can significantly influence the savings, investment and consumer spending in the economy through which of the following policy? So this question is asking about one of the policy which is framed by the central bank of the country, and the options which are given, they are fiscal policy, monetary policy, industrial policy and foreign exchange policy. So we are being asked what is this policy which is framed by the central bank, and this is influencing the savings, investments and consumer spending in the economy. So friends, to answer this question we must be aware about the concept of monetary and fiscal policy. So when we talk about broadly the policy scenarios in a country, there can be two sets of policy measures. One is monetary policy and the second one is fiscal policy. Now when we talk about the fiscal policy, this is more or less related to the government one. So when the government decides how much it has to spend, how much taxes have to be levied on the people, so these all aspects they are concerned with fiscal policy. For example, if the government is talking about expansionary fiscal policy, it means government is thinking of expanding the supply of different incentives in the economy. It means tax cuts, it means higher government spending and a bigger budget deficit. So when we talk about the government's budget, we are talking about fiscal policy. But when we talk about the policy which is framed by the central bank of the country, now this policy which is being framed by the central bank, and in India the central bank is Reserve Bank of India, then this policy is termed as monetary policy. Now as its name only suggests, this one is going to be concerned with the supply of money in the economy. So through this monetary policy, central bank handles the money supply in the economy by changing different factors like interest rates, CRR, SLR, etc. So central bank has different sorts of measures with it to influence the supply of money in the economy, and when it takes those measures to influence the money supply in the economy, it is termed as monetary policy. Now when we talk about the monetary policy in India, then the formulation of monetary policy, when we talk about this part, then in India, the policy interest rates which are required to achieve the inflation target. So there is an inflation target which is set by the government, which is to be achieved by the Reserve Bank, and the policy interest rate which has to be set to achieve this target is decided by the Monetary Policy Committee. So we know that we have to achieve this inflation target, and this is set by the government, and to achieve this target we have to set up different policy rates, like what is going to be the bank rate, repo rate, cash reserve ratio, etc. And these rates, they are decided by this Monetary Policy Committee, and this committee is chaired by none other than the Governor of Reserve Bank of India. Now the objective of monetary policy, it is to maintain price stability. It is to make sure that the prices, they remain stable in the economy, the inflation, it remains under control, so that we are able to move towards higher levels of growth and at the same time maintain stable prices in the economy. So we have to keep the inflation under control, and that is the foremost objective of monetary policy in India. So friends, now we can easily answer this question, that the policy through which the central bank is influencing the savings, investment and consumer spending in the economy. So what the central bank is doing, central bank is controlling the money supply through its monetary policy, and by controlling the money supply, it is influencing all these things. It is influencing the savings in the economy, it is influencing the investments and consumer spending. So if the central bank, it increases the rate of interest on the different sets of deposits, then it is going to influence the savings in the economy, it is going to influence more and more investments in the economy. But what if the central bank or the RBI reduces the interest rate on loans? So let's say the RBI has made the home loans or car loans cheaper. So this is going to boost consumer spending. So consumers are going to take more and more loans, and they are going to spend it on buying homes and cars. So this is through this policy of monetary policy that the central bank is influencing all these factors in the economy. So the answer to this question is going to be monetary policy. Now let's move to the next question. Which one of the following is not the characteristic of capitalism? Options are: individuals and associations behave with the economic motive of maximizing their profit with least sacrifice or cost. The country's major means of production are either owned by the government or their use is controlled by the government. Producers, consumers and employees compete among themselves as the resources and opportunities, they are limited. Price, the invisible hand, plays a predominant role in the flow of factors of production and consumption. So friends, to answer this question, we must be aware about two very important economic systems, which are capitalism and socialism. Now the main difference between these two systems arises on account of the extent of government intervention. So if the government is more or less on the passive side, it is not intervening much, then this is termed as a capitalist economic system, in which the private ownership is there, and these are the people who are owning the assets and controlling the businesses in the economy. And when we talk about the socialist ecosystem, this is the one in which the government's involvement is higher. So government is participating, and government wants to make sure that the resources in the economy, they are allocated in such a manner that all the people, they keep on growing. So here the government is making sure that the equitable distribution of resources is there in the economy. So it is not going to allow one or two private players to grow. It is going to make sure that everyone is growing equally. Now when we learn more about this capitalism or the capitalist economy, then this is the economy in which the key focus lies on the individuals who are owning and operating the private companies. So when we talk about capitalism, we are talking about private companies in the economy. So in this form of economy, there is this free markets. So the markets are free. The government is not regulating them to such an extent that it is determining everything. So market is having some room to play, and that's why all the different factors like the price, the income, the wealth, the distribution of goods, they are all dependent on the market. So if the market feels that there should be a proper demand of this product, its price is going to rise, and at the free markets they are going to act, the demand and supply, they are going to act to determine the price of the goods which are being sold. So government is not going to decide the price, the free markets themselves, they are going to decide the price. And the decisions over the use of resources, they are being made by the company. Under capitalism, the government's job is rather limited. So the government's job is to just enforce laws and regulations and to make sure there is level playing field for everyone. It has to make sure that each and every private company can come into this space and make profits. It can produce goods, it can sell them. So the government's job is rather on the narrow end, and it is not controlling each and everything. It is just controlling the platform on which each and everything is operating. Now this sort of system is also referred to as a free market economy, because here the free markets, they are themselves determining the price, or the free enterprise. So now friends, we have learned a lot about this concept of capitalism. Let's try to answer this question now. So here the first statement, which is individuals and associations behave with economic motive. So this one is true because in capitalism we are mainly concerned with economic motive or making profits. Next, the country's major means of production are either owned by the government or controlled by the government. So this one is going to be incorrect, because in capitalism the major means of production, they are being owned by the private class. Producer, consumers and employees, they are competing among themselves as the resources and opportunities are limited. So the resources, they are limited, each and everyone is interacting, the fair forces of the market, they are at play, and this is going to determine the allocation of resources. And the competition is there, but the government is not allocating these resources. They are going to be allocated due to healthy competition. Price is the invisible hand that plays a predominant role in the flow of factors of production and consumption. So price is a key factor here. So if the one person is paying more price for any factor of production, it is going to get that factor of production. So price is playing this key role. And even in the consumption front also, if you are offering goods at a lesser rate, there are high chances of being consumed. So this is the thing which is there in the capitalist sort of economy. And so we are able to easily answer this question now, that the second statement, this one is not the characteristic of capitalism, because in the capitalism the major means of production, they are being owned by the private people and not the government. Now let's move to the next question. Which of the following is not the salient feature of industrial policy developments since 1991? So friends, I believe you are all aware that 1991 is a watershed event concerned with the Indian economy, and this was the year in which different sorts of reforms were introduced in the economy. And we are being asked about which is not the salient feature here. The scope of the private sector has been enormously expanded. Public sector has been withdrawing partially or fully from several of the enterprises by way of disinvestment. The Indian industry is increasingly exposed to foreign competition. Monopoly or dominant position for the public sector in most of the industries, and control of the commanding heights of the economy by the public sector. So friends, to answer this question, we must be aware about the new industrial policy of 1991. So this policy has brought in some of the very comprehensive changes with regard to economic regulations in India. And if we take a look at the important aspects of these industrial regulations, then they are industrial delicensing. Now earlier what happened, there used to be a requirement of obtaining a license of whichever industry you are operating, but now we have moved towards cancelling this kind of provision, and this is termed as industrial delicensing. Next is a deregulation of the industrial sector. Now earlier the industrial sector, it was very much regulated. There were different sorts of regulations which were there to prevent the proper growth of the industrial sector, but now we have removed those kinds of regulations. Next is public sector policy. Now when it comes to public sector, we have started moving towards de-reservation. So now a very limited number of industries, they are reserved for participation of solely the public sector. Private sector is gaining its foothold in the different sectors which were earlier reserved for public sector also. And the reform of public sector enterprises is one important key agenda. Next is abolition of Monopolistic and Restrictive Trade Practices Act. So earlier this was this act in which the focus was on preventing monopoly, and the focus should have been on promoting healthy competition, and this was promoted by the enactment of Competition Act 2002. Next is foreign investment policy and foreign technology policy. So in this front also some changes were made, and it was made easier to come to make sure that the foreign investment can come to India, the foreign technology it can come to India. So these were some of the changes which were made as a part of new industrial policy. So if we look at the impacts of this particular policy, then this policy made the license, permit and quota raj a thing of the past. So now you are not required to obtain any proper licenses or quotas. Further, the role of public sector was made limited. The government went for disinvestment in the PSUs, and the role of private sector it gradually increased. It also provided easier entry with regard to multinational corporations and the private corporations. So now they were entering each and every field which were earlier not open for them, and all this resulted in increased competition. So as the competition increased, this resulted in lower prices in many goods. So this was ultimately good for the consumer. So these are the impacts of this new industrial policy of 1991. So friends, now we can easily answer this question, that the option number 4, which says monopoly or dominant position for the public sector, by the public sector, this one is not correct, because the role of public sector is gradually reducing and the private sector is gradually improving. Now let's move to the next question. Which of the following does not form the part of the important information which is to be incorporated in the Memorandum of Association as specified in the Companies Act 2013? Options are the name of the company and the state in which it is situated, the objects for which the company is proposed to be incorporated, the rules, regulations and bylaws for the internal management of the company, the liability of the members of the company, whether limited or unlimited. Now this question has been picked from the legal environment which the businesses have to comply with. Now when it comes to legal environment, one of the very important statutes there in the country is in the form of Companies Act 2013. Now this act has been formulated and passed, and it has replaced the previous Companies Act 1956, and it talks about the important provisions with regard to the companies. And when we come to the important documents part, then there are two important documents which are concerned with the company, that is Memorandum of Association and Articles of Association. So here are the important sets of differences between MOA and AOA. So MOA is a more important kind of document for the company, and it is containing the details like the limits and the objects of the company. So it is mentioning the detail what the company can do, what is going to be the registered office of that company. So all these important details, they are contained in this Memorandum of Association. And when we talk about the Articles of Association, they are more or less containing the details with regard to internal regulations of the company. So they are not the primary ones, they are just the subsidiary to Memorandum of Association. So MOA has to be registered at the time of incorporation, so you have to comply with the different formalities of registrar of companies and register its MOA. But here for articles this is not mandatory. And the memorandum, it defines the regulations between the company and the outsiders, but the articles, they contain the relationship of the company with the insiders or its members only. Further, there are strict restrictions with regard to amendment in any clause in the Memorandum of Association, and you have to comply with those regulations. And in some cases, the sanction of central government and tribunal is also required, but this is not the case with the Articles of Association, and it can be simply amended by passing a special resolution. The Memorandum of Association, it is a supreme document, but it is subordinate to the Companies Act. So it is subordinate to that, but the articles, it is subordinate to the Act as well as Memorandum. So if we try to arrange this, on the top there is going to be the Company Act, on second it is going to be MOA, and on third there is going to be AOA or Articles. So now friends, we can easily answer this question, that the option number 3, which says the rules, regulation and bylaws for the internal management of the company. So this is not part of the memorandum, rather it's concerned with the articles of the company. So the answer to this question is going to be option number 3. Now let's move forward to the next question. Which of the following is not correct relating to consumerism? Consumerism is a manifestation of failure of the business to guarantee and ensure consumer legitimate rights. The government does not have any role in consumer protection as it is part of the business organizations alone. The consumer should accept consumerism as a means of asserting and enjoying their rights. Consumerism evolution is not a setback for marketing but rather points to the next stage in the evolution of enlightened marketing. So friends, to answer this question, we must be aware about this term which is consumerism. Now when we talk about this term, we are talking about a social force. So this is a force which is acting on the consumers, and this is promoting the consumers. This is protecting the consumers by exerting a legal, moral and economic pressure on the business. So consumers are being given different sets of rights. They are more and more active about their rights, and this is giving them more power with regard to businesses. Now let's talk about the need for consumerism. Why did we need consumerism? Why did we need to promote consumers that they should be more aware and assertive about their different sets of rights? Now this was required because it was needed to safeguard consumers from dangerous and inferior sorts of goods which are there in the market, the misleading advertisements which are being made, the trade practices which were not fair. They were unfair trade practices from consumers' perspective, monopolistic and restrictive trade. So there were monopolies and they have to be reduced, and adulteration. So here the mixing of harmful components was being done with the key components. So this was adulteration, and it also required the need for consumerism. Denied after sale service, so it was not good. Consumers were given substandard goods, and more or less we can conclude that they were being exploited by the businessmen. So that's why there was a need for consumerism and to make the consumers more and more assertive about their rights. Now if we take a look at consumer protection, whose responsibility? So who is responsible? Is it only the responsibility of the voluntary organizations or the business or the private sector, or the government sector is also involved in consumer protection? So here the answer is all. They are involved in the consumer protection. And for example, the government is involved because it has passed and it is executing the Consumer Protection Act of 1986. And if you talk about the voluntary organizations, they are more or less organizing awareness or education campaigns, and through this also they are going to make sure consumers they remain protected and aware. So friends, now we can easily answer this question, that the option number 2 which says the government does not have any role in consumer protection, it is incorrect, because the government has a very important role to play with regard to consumerism. So friends, this was all about our discussion on 5 past MCQ series for UGC Net Commerce. Thank you friends. If you enjoyed this video, please like it on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel and share it with your friends. If you have any query, you can reach us at hello@everstudy.in, or you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/everstudyclasses, or you can even join our Telegram group, which is t.me/everstudy, and the link of all these are given in the description of this particular video. So thank you friends. We'll meet in the next video.